Hi, it's Miss John Baptiste. Today we're going to talk about the narrator's perspective or the author's point of view. When looking at the narrator's point of view, you want to know the difference between dialogue and narration. So, dialogue is when the characters speak and talk to each other, but narration is when the narrator speaks. So when you're looking at point of view, you only want to look at what the narrator is saying, not the characters. So anything in quotation marks shows that the characters are talking. That is not narration. So we do not count that when we are looking for the point of view. So look at the example below. It says, "Help, my cousin Jack said." Help is dialogue. We are not going to look at that because it's in quotation marks. So let's look at the next slide. Identifying narrator perspective. So it's all about the narrator. Who is telling the story? We're not looking at the dialogue, and we don't care what the characters say. Sorry, but we're not looking at what the characters are saying. We only want to look at the narrator's voice. That is what matters. Now, I know we've gone over this before, but here's some examples of the pronouns you will find that will help you with the point of view. So when we're trying to find the narrator's point of view, there are some pronouns that can help us. For instance, first person. We might see I, me, my, mine, we, us, ours. In second person, we're going to see you and your. And in third person, we're going to see he, she, her, they, them, or also the characters' names. Now remember, we are not looking for these pronouns in quotation marks. The dialogue does not count. So first person is easy to identify because the narrator is part of the story. The narrator is a character. And the narrator usually uses I or we. So for example, when I went home, Tim came over and I couldn't play. Or another example, when I was a little girl, we used to go outside in the summertime and play outside all day long. Notice that I am part of the story. I am telling the story. So I am the narrator and a character. So here's some tips on identifying the narrator's point of view. The first thing you want to do is check for first or second person before worrying about objective, limited, or omniscient. We'll talk about third person in a couple of days. So always look for, is it first person or second person? Ask yourself, who is the story? Whose story is the narrator telling? Is the narrator telling his or her own story or somebody else's? And then finally, you want to focus on the narration, not the dialogue. No dialogue. So let's look at an example. When I was 4 months old, my mother died suddenly, and my father was left to look after me all by himself. I had no brothers or sisters, so through boyhood, from the age of 4 months onward, there was just us two, my father and me. We lived in an old gypsy caravan behind a filling station. Now let's look at the same example again. Notice how I circled the pronouns. I, my, me, we, and those pronouns that are repeated show me that this is probably first person. So after I look at the pronouns, I'm going to say, who is telling the story? when I was 4 months old. Oh, the narrator is telling the story, but the narrator is also a character in the story. Therefore, because we are using the pronouns I, my, me, we, and the narrator is telling a story about him or herself, it must be first person. Now let's look at this next example. Landlord, said I, what sort of chap is he? Does he always keep such late hours? It is now hard upon 12 o'clock. The landlord chuckled again with his lean chuckle and seemed to be mightily tickled at something beyond my comprehension. No, he answered. Generally, he's an early bird. Early to bed and early to rise. Yeah, he's the bird what catches the worm. But tonight he went out a-peddling, you see, and I don't see what on earth keeps him so late, unless maybe he can't sell his head. Now notice how I put a line through a lot of the words. The reason why I did that is because it's dialogue. If we're looking at point of view, we do not want to look at the dialogue. Now if you look at the top, it says, said I. So the pronoun I. It was now hard upon 12 o'clock. The landlord chuckled again with his lean chuckle and seemed to be mightily tickled at something beyond my comprehension. Oh, my comprehension. So I'm in this story. Notice how later I circled the he's and the I's in the dialogue. I did that to show you that those pronouns do not count because they are in the dialogue. So because we have the pronoun I, said I, beyond my comprehension, this is in first person, and the narrator is part of the story. So I hope this clarifies what first person is, and from here on, we will go to the second person. Thank you.